All right, we are live on the second episode of Shooting the Shit. Tonight, we are joined by a great person, a wonderful author. I assume I have not yet read his books, but I will get there. AJ Rettger, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your books and maybe yourself, go ahead.
So I'm AJ Rettger, author of the brief bestseller Oathbreaker and then my second book, Season of Kings, came out last year. I got right here. That's what it looks like. They're grimdark medieval fantasies, very similar to The Witcher, because I am a big time fan of that franchise, both the books and the games. And about myself, I basically am boring and have really nothing going on in my life besides writing books. So
That's fair. I'm boring too. And for anyone who is watching or watches later, we do have a link to your books in the description down below, so they can check them out there. Now, you just mentioned, it's funny because we came onto this with zero plan, mostly just we're going to go on and actually shoot the shit. And that's what we're doing. It's completely unscripted, no categories thought of. Just we're gonna go live and see what happens. And already, you mentioned a topic that can have some interesting opinions. You brought up The Witcher and how your writing is kind of inspired by The Witcher, right?
Yeah.
Now you said you're a fan of the games and the books.
Correct.
Have you seen the show?
Yes. And so, yeah, I'll go. You're setting me up for a tangent right now, John, right off the gate. I really dislike this. So the reason I started writing is because I heard they were making this Netflix show back in 2019. And I was like, okay, cool. They're making my favorite books into a show. And then they cast Henry Cavill as the lead. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, Henry Cavill, are you kidding me? I thought he was way too pretty for the role of Geralt. And then I watched the first season and he absolutely crushed it. And then
yes, Henry Cavill, amazing in the show, I think. Now, I personally have not read the books, so I don't have an attachment to the lore that a lot of fans do. I don't think. I played The Witcher 2, and I didn't finish it, and then I just couldn't get into it. I got pretty far, but I was very confused with the storyline, so I didn't really keep going. But I played The Witcher 3. I beat the entire game. I loved it. Big fan of that game. But again, kind of lost with a lot of the lore and the story, because they kind of, if you haven't played the first one and you haven't finished the second one, there are definitely references that you're not going to understand.
Right.
And I really liked the game. And then I saw the show. I saw both seasons. Did you see both seasons?
Yes.
Okay, so season 1, I have mixed opinions on, because they had that multiple timeline thing going, and it was a little confusing to figure. Like, if you don't know that's happening until they kind of reveal it, you're like, what the hell is happening? But I liked it. And then season 2, I actually liked more than season 1, which I think that might be a hot take. I'm not quite sure. But this is coming from someone who doesn't have the background of loving the books and the lore. And I'm super pissed about the things that I've heard in regards to him exiting the show. And then so him exiting the show, and then also how the showrunners are purposely ignoring the author's works, which I'm not necessarily opposed to in some things, but I am very opposed to it when it's done with what I see or interpret as more of a malicious attempt, I guess. It sounds like they're really going out of their way to kind of be, I don't want to say problematic, because I don't think it's problematic, but just to upset fans.
Yeah, for me, as a fan of the show, hey John, it really angers me because like I love the books, and like season 2 was a complete, like that whole demon thing at the end of the was complete fabrication. Doesn't happen in the books at all. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit of curve left field. And then Henry Cavill leaving due to them leaving the source material. And it sounds like they're kind of just trying to piggyback off of the hype of the books and the games and make it their own thing. And that have like vaguely tied to it.
They want the name and the franchise, but the
Yeah.
actual lore and story sounds like they want to disregard it. But he has not read it and doesn't know. So that seems to be kind of a common trend now with adaptations, where it's just like, I don't know, we're just going to ignore what's established and then also rile the fans up on purpose, which I don't understand that tactic.
No. And then you look at like the huge success that The Last of Us had.
Yes.
Like that was almost a biblical representation of the game. Like scene by scene almost.
Yes, I had a few problems with that show. I think probably a hot take is that I didn't like it as much as a lot of people did. And the finale, without getting into spoilers for anyone, I know that it replicated the game kind of like scene by scene, but man, it just to me did not land the way it did in the game. The game was just so intense and it's so crazy, and then I don't know what they did. It felt rushed. It just didn't feel earned. It didn't feel like Joel even had the information that was like you knew in the games. Like in the games, I think they tell you we're going to kill her basically, but in the show, it's a lot more vague. Like they don't really, they kind of allude to that. And I just said that I was going to talk about this with no spoilers, and so I apologize for anyone who may have just wondered what I'm hinting at there, but
yeah. Well, like to me, like when they first came out and they announced it to be like an 8-episode series, I'm like, there's no way they can fit that story into 8 episodes, and they did a hell of a job for 7 episodes, and then the 8th it was just like, woo, try and jam pack. Like,
oh my god, I know it was so rushed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, John. I was like that ending. It was just like it didn't land. It didn't have the same emotion because after I played Last of Us, I was like, and then when
I had zero emotion with the show. Zero.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it. I wanted to get that like gut punch that I felt in the game.
Yeah.
And the show was just like, it was almost like they were telling you, I don't even know what they were doing. That didn't land, but I think that the first real miss for me, and this will be a spoiler, so if anyone hasn't seen The Last of Us, just close your ears for a second or skip ahead like 30 seconds. But there is this part in the game where they are talking about what the procedure is kind of going to be and why they're doing it. And in the show, when they bring up this procedure, they do not really say anything. You kind of get the sense that maybe he's guessing what's happening, but there's no like reason almost for him to go off on the killing rampage in the show. It almost felt like really forced. I can't explain it without getting into even more spoilers, I guess, but I don't know. And then you get through that action scene and you have like their reunion, when they reunite, and that didn't really hit either. And then when they go outside and you have that whole confrontation and stuff, that didn't hit. I don't know. None of it really seemed like it had the same impact as the game. The game was just, my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah. And I don't know. And I'm pissed off that Joel didn't pick up a single brick in that show. And like, come on, man. Like a little bit of that would have been like great. A little bit of homage to the fans who played the game.
Right. So same. This Jacob says same thing with the Rings of Power. I didn't watch Rings of Power. I saw the first episode and I realized it was not for me. More power to you if you like the show. I didn't. I really couldn't stand it. That being said, it's a fantasy show. It's a high budget fantasy show. I want it to succeed so that we get more high budget fantasy shows. But I could not get past like Galadriel. I just the first episode. There's that part where she runs up the shield, jumps in the air, and like attacks and kills this ogre troll thingy. When that happened, I was like, I don't think this is for me.
Yeah, Rings of Power, I got 2 episodes in, and then I finally just said, it's not there. To me, the writing wasn't there. Cinematography, it's a beautifully
God,
shot series.
Yeah, the scenery is just insane.
But it'll be interesting now that Warner Brothers is releasing TV shows of Rings of Power or Lord of the Rings.
No, what's happening is Amazon's doing Rings of Power, and HBO is doing. I think it's. I don't know the specifics, but I do know they're doing their own shows. I think it's more Lord of the Rings based though, right? And not more like the history or lore. I'm not quite sure on that, AJ.
Yeah,
so
I don't know too much either. But I do know they're remaking Harry Potter apparently.
We'll get hold on to that. There's some comments here that I want to address that touch us on The Last of Us, and then we'll get into the Harry Potter stuff because that's a wildly interesting conversation, and I have a lot of thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts too. But first, let's check out what John said. So this comment popped up when we were talking about The Last of Us. So he said, except for the 3 episodes of pure filler when we were talking about how it was like scene by scene, I guess. And I think this is very true. I think my favorite episode of the season was actually a filler episode, and that was episode 3.
Yeah.
But looking back on the show as a whole, episode 3 is one of the worst episodes because it adds nothing to the show. In my opinion, it adds nothing to the show. I've had debates with other people who do say it adds a lot, but I thought it ended up adding nothing to the overall show, even though it's my favorite episode.
Yeah, episode 3 is definitely my favorite, and I'm kind of on the fence. It expands the world in my mind, but it doesn't jog the story. It's just, which I think.
My alternative would be if they. Why can't I? What's the guy's name? Frank?
Bill and Frank.
Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Bill came back, and I know that they left it off like he died, but it was never really confirmed. If they had Bill come back in like a later episode, I think that this episode would be like amazing. I just think that having a full episode devoted to 2 characters who have no other impact in the show or reason to be there, I guess, is kind of strange. I love the episode, but when we need, like you said, the show was 8 episodes. It's a really short show. When you have an 8-episode show, and personally, I never thought that we got the Joel and Ellie relationship that we should have. This episode is a problem, I think. I think if we had gotten a filler episode like this with Joel and Ellie just trying to survive the land, maybe, you said you wanted to see Joel pick up a brick. If we had gotten another, I think it was in the first episode. Do you remember the episode when Joel and Ellie are in, and Tess are in like that? I think it's a museum.
Yes.
And they're crouched and like walking almost like the game. And they like sneak up and kill the clicker. You remember that?
Yeah.
If they had done more of that type of action in the show, it would have really connected it to the game a bit more. And then it also would have showed you the Joel and Ellie like survival relationship more than it did in the show, I think. We didn't really get a lot of them just going, traveling, surviving. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's very, very hop to the next encounter type of thing.
Yeah, it was like we need to hit all these beats, but we're not going to have anything in between. And I think that was like a big problem.
And that's the problem with a lot of these shows now. Whoever's bankrolling them doesn't want to put the money out for the proper length that they need to be told in. Like, what was it? Game of Thrones final season was 8 episodes as well. I'm like, how are you supposed to wrap up all those storylines in 8 episodes? And of course, they fell flat.
Oh my god, the last 2 seasons of that show were pretty bad.
They just kept reducing the episode numbers because their first seasons, I think, were 10 or even more than 10. And then as they got further into the show, HBO for some reason was just cutting the episode length down. they're only renewing it for certain amounts. I was like, how, like, yeah. So you're really shorthanding great stories by not giving them the amount of screen time they need.
And then I would also pose the counter argument that some studios are doing the opposite and putting way too much out there of a show that's just trying to milk it. So The Walking Dead.
Oh, yes.
That show went on far too long, unfortunately, because it started out as one of my favorite shows of all time. And then it just quickly kind of descended into a lot of filler and boringness, unfortunately. But
yeah.
So John says that the second game and the hyperventilating defenders of that game and franchise have made me retroactively not like the first game, which I did enjoy. How do you feel about the second game?
I didn't finish it. I got to a certain point where a certain someone.
Yes. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I turned it off.
Oh, okay. So I finished the game, not because I enjoyed it, but because I bought it and I felt I had to. Mm-hmm. I hate it. I really hated it, but it doesn't ruin the first game for me, I don't think.
Yeah. For what I did play, it was just like, I was like, this isn't as fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like it's a decent game. Like I didn't stop it because of that event happening. It was just like, that was kind of like the final straw that broke the camel's back. I was just like, okay, I just like, I got other games to play. I'll go play The Witcher for the 16th fucking time. And, but yeah, that's just kind of how the Last of Us Part 2 was for me. It was just like, it's an okay game, but it definitely doesn't have the impact or the emotional connection that the first one did.
Yep. I always say that The Last of Us 2 it was a great game to play in terms of like mechanics and graphics and gameplay, but like everything else was so empty that it was hard to care, I think. Like you said, there's no emotional impact. The story was pretty not great for me. The characters all were kind of a miss for me. So I was like dragging my feet through that game, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I made it about 3 episodes into Rings of Power, a beautiful show, but couldn't get into it. I couldn't even get 3 episodes. I stopped watching in the first 10 minutes of episode 2, actually. I gave it a shot after I decided I was going to not finish after the first episode. And I was like, well, hold on. There's been so many shows out there with a terrible first episode. I'll try it again. But, when you find yourself on your phone more than you're watching the show, I think that's when you give up.
Well, that's a hot take for me, is that everyone loves Breaking Bad, and that's what it was for me. I was on my phone 90% of the time. And I was just like,
AJ,
man.
You have just become a very good friend of mine. I've seen all of Breaking Bad, and I thought it was very okay.
Yeah, I got to
overrated.
I got to the last season. I was like, man, you know what? I'm not subjecting myself to another 10 hours of this show where I'm not even like really watching. So I just like, yeah, Breaking Bad. And everyone yells at me for that. They're like, what do you mean? It's such a great show. I'm like, they had an entire episode where there was a fly in the meth lab and they followed that around. I'm like, like, come on, guys.
So the show was originally So I remember when the show first came out because I watched it live. I watched that show, I think, every season for 3 or 4 seasons, like live on TV, and then I kind of fell out of it. And I think I fell out of it and then watched it all later. I don't recall. Maybe I did keep up with the whole show. I don't remember. But anyway, the show was advertised as like the Malcolm in the Middle dad turning into Tony Soprano, I think was basically the initial advertising of that show. And so I was going into that show thinking, okay, great. The first season or 2 will probably be like a dad who becomes, this drug lord and slowly descends into this huge gang activity. And then there's going to be all this cool and crazy action and all this wild stuff. But that's not what we got. It basically just stayed kind of the boring dad turned into a drug lord thing. And I got so bored. I was waiting for there to be like, I don't know, more action, more like gang activity, I guess. We never really descended into what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just Breaking Bad missed the mark for me, and a lot of AMC shows do that actually for me. Like Walking Dead hit like first
Oh my god,
5 seasons. I think I was like, yes, every day. I was watching it, rooting Carl for die because I hated Carl. I wanted Carl to die every week, and I remember like years later when he finally, like, spoiler alerts, he gets shot. And I was like, yes. I had to run downstairs. I wasn't even in the show anymore, but my parents called me downstairs, like, AJ, you'll never guess what happened to Carl. He got shot. And I like slammed my bedroom door and I sprinted downstairs, like, back it up. Let me watch it. Let me close this window quickly, though.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. That's funny, though. I actually fell out of The Walking Dead earlier than you did, but I ended up. I actually watched further. I watched until Negan's introduction and the end of that season, and then I quit. And then when COVID happened, I was bored, so I went back and watched everything that I hadn't seen. And wasn't really that impressed. But by the same token, I would say Fear the Walking Dead. I really love that show from like season 4 on, I think. The first couple seasons are a little slow, but they kind of change showrunners and introduce a bunch of really interesting characters, and I really started to like that show. John says indie fantasy authors have never disappointed me. I would say some have disappointed me and some haven't, but you know, that's good that he has had such a good experience. What about you, AJ? How do you feel about indie fantasy authors?
Honestly, I have been very, very blessed to pick. Whenever I pick up a self pub or an indie author, it's quite good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and I think it's because I'm part of this community, and like I'm able to find like who are the heavy hitters who put out quality work, who will pay for the copy editors and who actually put craft and not just publish a first draft, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, some big names is like obviously Ryan Cahill, we were talking about before we went live.
Yeah.
Christopher Brenning, Holly Tinsley. I'm trying to think, who else do I have right here that I was reading? Crystal Matar, The Legacy of the Brightwash.
Yep, that was a good one.
That was another really good one. I don't remember it at all. I told Crystal that I was like, I read your book, and then it completely went out of my mind once I closed it. Like I was like, if you asked me about it, I couldn't tell you. So I'm probably going to reread it at some point. But
that's funny. Yeah. I gave that book a 4.5 out of 5, rounded up to a 5. I thought it was a really good book. There was my only problems with it are nothing with the writing or the story. Just kind of personal preferences in like what is in a book, I think. So there's a bit much of the romance and stuff, and I recognize that's just a me problem, but that did hamper my enjoyment of it a little bit. But otherwise, it's a really, 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 really good book. All right, we're falling behind on some comments here. This is back to the Breaking Bad discussion, but the thing about The Fly is that it's a metaphor for the plot happening at the time where Jesse is skimming meth for himself, and Walt knows it and has to warn him while in camera. I guess, but then the showrunner also said it was a purposeful filler episode because they had to fill out 16 episodes and they ran out of budget. So, yeah, I guess, you can find meaning in anything probably, but the showrunner did admit that it was a flop of an episode because they didn't have any money.
Well, that was like Walking Dead. What was it, season 2 or 3, when they're on what's the old guy's name?
Herschel,
yeah, Herschel's Farm. They're on that because the budget went to a different AMC show. I think it was Hell on Wheels. So they cut Walking Dead's budget, so that entire season where they're on the farm is strictly because of finances, and that's why I feel like that season just dragged. But like, again, like, what can you do when your money's taken away from you?
Right. Hell on Wheels was okay. I never finished it though.
Yeah, it was, again,
got really boring.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to like it more than I did. Breaking Bad has great individual episodes and some really good moments, but it requires the build up to make the payoff. I guess, but when the build up is a 5,000 Lego piece Lego set, it takes too many hours to build to there.
That's how it was. It was like that's the analogy I have for almost every AMC show was just like first 2 episodes of a season, holy crap, this is awesome. The middle, meh, and the last 2 episodes, the last 2 or 3 episodes of a season, like holy crap, this is awesome again. It's just that boom and bust cycle
AMC,
for me. Personally.
Yeah, they have a very formulaic way of doing seasons, and it's so annoying. And if there's a mid-season finale, you can see the build up to that, the semi cliffhangers, and then the start of the next seasons and stuff. I don't like how they do that.
Yeah, but it's
I don't. The Walking Dead was pretty good. Picked it up when I was bedridden with COVID, but it did start lagging after Negan popped up. Loved everything up through the end of the episode. Yeah, it's an okay show.
Yeah, now there's like 4 spin-offs for it.
Yes, there's The Walking Dead, which is done. Fear the Walking Dead, which is done this year, I think.
And then Dead City, and then another one got announced.
Dead City. They had another show that was only 2 seasons long that's already done. It was absolute trash. It was easily one of the worst shows I've ever seen in my entire life. I forgot the name of it, but it featured these kids essentially. It was so bad. Just the story was really bad, and the acting was also really bad. And I don't like to criticize people's acting often, but I don't think it was entirely the writing as a problem in that show. It was just bad. Brenning is a solid writer and a good dude. It shocked the hell out of me that he does not use an editor and self-edits. Well, actually, the reason why I didn't rate his books higher was because of a few editing issues that kind of pulled me out of his stories. But I was pretty surprised to find out that he self-edits too.
Yeah, that's the one thing. My first book, I think, is definitely edited to the best of my editor's ability. Like, I had a great editor for my first book, and then I went to a different editor of my second book, and it's good, but there was definitely flaws that once I released it out or put out art copies people were sending me, I was like, oh crap. So
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you here, but your first book was Oathbringer?
Yeah.
So you used an editor that you liked more on that book than on Season of Kings.
Yeah, so like Oathbreaker was published through the Cardinal Sin, a hybrid publishing house.
Oh, shit, I did not know that you ventured in there.
Yeah, or a vanity press. So I didn't know any better. I did it. And don't get me wrong, I think I got probably one of the best vanity presses to work with, but it's just they take your money. They take your money, and and it's just like it wasn't worth the financials. Unless I started talking to other people in the self-publishing industry and I got some of my tips on how they did it, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna do it the other way. But then the problem is if you just pick editors who seem good or have 2 or 3 good examples, but they aren't quite up to snuff. So that's the mistake I made with my second one.
Right. So I also changed editors with my books. I had my first editor. I can't say enough good things about her. Very talented person. Holy crap, just way out of my budget. Very expensive. I spent far too much editing my first book. Far too much. I learned a lot, though, and I think that made my editing process a lot better. And now I switched. I'm now with Sarah Chorn for my second book, and that went really well. Very much enjoyed working with her. But yeah, it's definitely interesting when you see 2 different editors, I think, and what happens. See, I look back on. I have a pretty bad memory, even for my own writing. So I'm writing book 3 right now, and when I was writing book 2 as well, sometimes I'll have to just start paging through my book to refresh my memory on something that I wrote. And when I do that, I'm like, oh god, this part is like could have been so much better, written or edited or whatever. I don't blame anyone, but because we all come to a point where we just have to say that's enough tweaking. I
Mm-hmm.
just got to put it out there. But uh, just looking back at it, I'm a little. I just spent way too much money on like what I ended up with. Like she didn't. I'm not saying I got scammed or anything. I didn't. She did a lot of work on it. I just wish that. Um, all right, let me change this conversation actually into a question for you because
Yeah.
when I had my first editor, I was like you. It was my first experience, so I didn't really know what I was doing. Uh, just as I'm assuming you didn't really know what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
The first time you put a book out there, it's kind of rolling the dice and hoping. Uh, so I was a lot of more of like a pushover, I would say. I was writing on Pro Writing Aid, which I still use, and
Mm-hmm.
following too many of the suggestions, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
then when my editor edited my book, I followed every single suggestion without question. And I look back and really regret some of that because there are some things I changed that I think neutralized some of the writing I did and some of the effects of the writing I did. So my question to you is, did you change processes when you started writing your second book and getting it edited and stuff? Did you have similar issues with like maybe the first book you were I don't know too much of a pushover like I was and accepted everything or
Yeah.
what?
So my first book with Oathbreaker, I was first like the editor's word was law. Any suggestion they did, I'm like, yep, make that change. Yep, make that change. And they did a really good job, but it still just fell again, same like you. I felt like it took certain things away. And in terms of Season of Kings, I was very much more pig-headed, I guess. And like, no, I like this how it is, and we're not going to change that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But
And I think that's something that authors should remember. Editors are there to help you, but they
mhm.
don't know everything because they're not the writer. So sometimes their advice is going to be terrible, and that's just that's how it is. So you know, AMC cycle is the entirety of the Walking Dead's entire. Oh, the cycle with the seasons, I think is what he's
Yeah,
referring to, which is so formulaic. It's terrible. It's ironic to me that the Walking Dead's downfall came about immediately after it introduced its most iconic villain. I agree, but I also think that they wasted so much time using him and not actually doing anything with him, just trying to
hmm
threaten instead of showing anything. And this is kind of funny.
yeah.
Gonna
Sorry.
need to rename my working title for one of my books from Oathbringer to something else, or Oathbreaker. Sorry,
Yeah,
Oathbringer is Sanderson.
Sanderson. Yeah, yeah. I got a lot of people like when I first released Oathbreaker, like, oh, Brandon Sanderson has a new novel. I was like, no, no. I mean, it'd be nice if I was on that level of fame, but so
Definitely. It's a rough gig being an indie author.
yeah, it's. I think that's how I felt. Like I got approached by his actual editor for my second book, though, and I think it's partly because our titles were so similar. And I was like, oh,
By
okay,
Sanderson's editor,
yeah, Sanderson's editor,
he
and,
approached you.
or she did, yeah. She was like,
Oh,
hey,
she.
like,
Sorry.
yeah, she's like, hey, I noticed you're publishing your second book, and I'm so and so, and this is all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, cool. I can work with someone with some really great credentials. And I looked at the price tag. I was like, that is why she's like the AAA authors, not an indie author. Because holy crap.
I am shocked that someone so prolific ended up just randomly messaging you their services like that. Because typically, the I'm going to say unsolicited, but I don't really mean that with her because professionals and stuff,
Yeah,
whatever. But it is odd that she would just message you like that when you're listen, you and I are in the same group here, so I don't
yeah,
mean any offense when
yeah.
I say that, we are small authors and, trying to get somewhere. I'm just surprised that she would reach out to someone in our
world,
you
yeah.
know, world, yeah,
And it's just like,
and offer that.
yeah, like it was through Reedsy, I think. I don't know if you ever
Oh,
heard of that.
interesting.
Yeah,
I've
Reedsy.
heard of it. I've never used it.
Yeah, I've had mixed results with it, honestly. But yeah, just like basically, it's kind of like a classified. Like I posted like second book looking for an, and she'd obviously heard of me, and I'm assuming it's because our damn titles were so fucking similar. And 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 then yeah, she just messaged me that, and I was like, okay. So we started talking, and then she sent me the quote, and I was like, yeah, not there
Gotta
yet.
come out.
Yeah, can't afford it. I'm an indie author.
Yes. I am an indie author, famously, who spent far too much on my first book. Unfortunately, I think I
I'm
always
right.
cite. What's that?
I said I'm right there with you. My first
All
book
right.
cost quite a bit. Well, that Vanity Press really.
Yeah. Those really fuck you.
Yep.
I got this figure is including a lot of costs that go with writing in general. So, like, this figure was including my subscription to Pro Writing Aid, Word, things like that. Uh, and I think it was around $12,000. If I take out a lot of those extra costs, I think it was more around the line of like $9,000 to $10,000 for like actual book costs, cover art, editing,
Mm.
things like that. I think editing itself was like $8,000. I did 3 different edits, and they were all very expensive.
Yeah, it was very Yeah, I just the Vanity Press they said, "Oh, we have this package, we have this package, we have
Yeah,
this pack," and I'm like, "Okay," not really thinking because I was And then when I saw the grand total, I was like, "Oh, I went a little
yeah,
fast and loose with the money there."
yeah, and that sucks because Vanity Press is notorious. I don't know what yours did, but notoriously don't do anything to help an
They
authors like promote and
No,
get the
yeah,
book out
promotion.
there.
They really like Friesen Press is the Vanity Press that I used, and I think PL Stewart uses them as well for his books.
Oh, does he still uses it?
I think he's still publishing through them,
Huh.
and he loves them, and like I got not I like I like them too because they really help you get your book ready. But in terms of making it reach its audience, is kind of where their services drop off. Like they
Right.
promise, they say, "Oh, we have these promotion packages," and I bought them. But to me, maybe my book just sucks. I don't know, but it really didn't. It really didn't help me at all. Those promotion packages, but they really helped get it up to snuff. Like they designed an awesome cover. They did like here. I got the cover right here. Oh. Like they designed the cover and
Yep.
they edited it a couple times. They submitted it to some prolific reviewers like Kirkus Reviews read that book and
Oh, nice.
yeah, so a couple big things like that to help get it ready. But in terms of actually getting in front of people, I think they fell short.
Yeah, but that's also,
The
unfortunately,
biggest challenge, yeah.
that's what happens with vanity presses in general, because you buy the package and they get their money and then they don't care after that, right? That's like what their business is about. And I think that's the biggest problem with them. And a lot of authors that use them are staunch defenders, like you kind of referred to. PL Stewart, I don't know much about his books and stuff. I know that he does like his publisher. I've seen him post about them before. And that's a common theme. I've never worked with the Vanity Press, so I don't really know the process, I guess. I have a strong negative reaction whenever I hear the word Vanity Press because of information I know. But I suppose there's always, good ones. And like you said, the fact that they're actually getting your book up to snuff and getting it ready for publishing, that's more than a lot of vanity presses do.
Yeah.
So, they might be a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, they definitely helped me a little bit there, and I think it is a learning experience I had to do. But then like there's certain things like that broke the camel's back was like they wanted me to pay to adjust my pricing. So you know how you can have like free weeks for ebooks or discount it for whatever.
Right.
Every time that I had to adjust the price, they said, "Oh, you have to pay us such and such amount." I'm like, "Well, that's fucking stupid."
Oh, because I forget they control the
Yeah.
Amazon account, and so they're, yeah. I think that's kind of horseshit.
Yeah, I was like, that's
But,
fucking stupid. So it's like, all right, that's what broke the count box. Okay, I was like, okay, I'm definitely not coming back to you guys now because if I want to discount my books, I'm gonna damn well discount my fucking books.
right. Yeah. See, I don't like that shit. I didn't even realize that you didn't have control over that. That
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah. You get an initial, you get to label your initial price, but if you're deviating from that, you got to pay extra every time you change it.
It's kind of horseshit.
Yeah.
So Joshua Scott Edwards says, "Damn, dude, 10K, and I thought I paid a lot for my book." Yes. So when I first got into this business, my thought was, if I don't invest enough money into quality stuff, I am going to not be able to be seen amidst all the other self-published books. And so I purposely bought a very expensive cover. I purposely bought very expensive editing. Someone that knows what they're doing, has the degrees, all of that shit. I got to tell you, not a good idea.
Yeah.
The cover art, I stuck with it for book 2. I think the investment is maybe not worth it, but for me personally, it's worth it. I really like the art a lot. And I've always liked the fantasy sceneries, so I do it for myself, and I like that. A lot of people are like, you should not spend that much money on cover art, and while they may be correct, it's just something I always wanted, was really cool scenery, and so that's why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
The editing, you can find affordable editing everywhere.
Yeah, it's just there's so much, like, you just like, do you splurge for the higher end stuff, or do you play it safe, and especially with editing or cover arts, or get burnt? Because like I had another cover for Oathbreaker originally, and I was like, oh, I'll find my own cover artist. Did that, and his covers were amazing on his site, and then he sent me what he sent. I was like, this is fucking horseshit, man.
Yeah.
And so it's a double-edged sword. Yeah,
it's risky.
Yeah, it's risky. Do you either break the bank and get something great, or do you try and find something affordable and the quality is a toss in the coin toss?
Yeah. And the problem, so I also, before I had the Trials of Ashmount art done, I went on Fiverr and saw a really cool profile with really good art and hired them to make art. And like what happened with you, I was like, what the hell is this shit? And so that really sucks. But, what are you going to do? Lots of good lessons here learned here. Definitely.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes. Learn from my mistakes.
Agreed. I'm about to start shopping for my cover art. I'm ready to be hurt. Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm trying to think I can't remember the guy's name, but if you like kind of like this cover and like that style of stuff, not really an illustration, but more kind of a composition of stock images, I guess is what you'd call them.
Photo manipulation, I think it's called.
Yeah, something like that. The guy, I'm gonna have to look. His name's Mike something. I can't remember, but he actually is quite affordable, and he did my cover, and I was happy with it. It was just, I can't remember.
I think you can get a very reasonable, good-looking cover for around, I don't know, $400 or $500. You can get a really good-looking, solid, competitive cover that isn't going to break your bank. However, I will say, and there's always exceptions. I know a person that is an exception to this rule. If you go lower than $300-$400, it is very, very risky. I think there's a lot of I don't want to call them all scammers, but there's a lot of people who are just trying to get a little bit of money, and you end up with some really bad looking covers. Now, Michael Roberti, you know him, right?
I think so, yeah.
He's very active on Twitter. I forgot the name of his book, but this is the next one, A Grave for Us All, I think it's called. I think his cover arts. I had a conversation with him on Discord a few days ago. I think he said he only spent like $30 for or something stupidly low for his cover arts, and for the price that he paid, it's like insane. I can't remember the exact price, but it was like below $100. And I'm really surprised by that because I would have guessed he would have spent a couple $100. Your book cover pops. Great job choosing the artist. I saw the Buzzards Bowl art. Looks great. I do think it's about building a team to some extent for editing, art, etc. I'm just trying to find good people and work with them. That's the hard part, is the finding good people, because there's so many other things that go outside of if they're scammers or not. I've had people that do excellent work, but they're terrible with deadlines. And that throws everything off. Definitely risky to pay for it all. I doubt what is it? Ocean of Others. That's right. Will ever recoup his costs. Sorry, Joshua. I know your book. I tripped over the AOOO. I do know who you are, though. Trust me. You break the bank, you get something great, because nothing will sell your book more than that kick-ass cover. I say this as a fantasy fan who will buy books on the cover alone. So a lot of people get stuck. I'm curious how you think about this, AJ. I see this argument online all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy a book by its cover. But I think that a lot of people do.
Yeah, I'm definitely a book racist. I definitely judge it by its cover, and I'm like, oh. And so I'm guilty of that too. It's just like, I think whose book was it that I just had an amazing cover, and I just bought it. Oh shit, it's on my bookshelf back there. Can't remember, but anyways, yeah, I just saw it on Twitter, and I was like, a Sword of Mercy.
A Sword of Mercy and Wrath by N.C. Kousis.
Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce his last name, so I was like, I'll just say the title. But yeah, I bought that book because I was like, oh, that cover looks sick. So
Legacy of a Brightwash was actually a cover by for me.
Oh yeah, yeah, her cover is super unique.
Yeah, I can't say it's not like the art is amazing. It's just what it was. I think it's the design. It just looks so good.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm so curious. And so I bought it. I just thought it was like really a nice looking cover. Not like the art is fine, but it's just like the way it's laid out. I don't know. I just really liked how it looked, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that.
AJ,
Thank you,
I went ahead and bought your book. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I always get weird when people say they're, I'm buying your book, because I'm like, shit, what if they hate it?
I'm the same way, dude. I'm not sure what's worse. What's worse for you? If I said this, AJ, I'm buying your book, or if I said, AJ, I'm reading your book.
Oh God, yeah, reading the book. Because I know there's a good chance it'll just sit on someone's TBR for years and it'll never get picked up.
That's true. It's I'm reading your book thing. That is so petrifying. Okay, so there's a YouTuber. His YouTube name is Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews, I think. I'm in his Discord, and he's reading my book right now. He is known for being brutally honest. And so I'm just like petrified right now, because it's so scary to have anyone read the book and review it.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're known for being like brutally honest, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is super scary. And that's why I'm always like nervous. That's
scary.
I'm always so nervous to just like show people that I read a book, or I wrote a book. Like I've been dating a few girls every once in a while, because my relationship's been on and off, and they always say, "Oh, I'll read your book," and then a few of them have actually, and a few of them have actually started reading the book. I'm like, "Fuck, like this is gonna blow up," and a lot of almost every time they read it, they always say, "I didn't expect it to be so dark." I'm like, yeah, well, shit.
It's true. That's all right. We got two ways we can move right now. I have two ideas in mind. So we can go back and talk about that Harry Potter show,
Mhm.
or we can go forward and talk about kind of grimdark stuff.
Ooh,
What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling grimdark. I think
All right, let's go. Let's go grimdark. So grimdark, you classify your books, both of your books, as grimdark, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. I also would classify my books as grimdark. I've had mixed feedback on that. There's been a few people who are like it's not dark enough, but I think the main reason I call it that is because I don't want someone who just finished Wheel of Time to then think I'll go to this book next.
Yeah.
uh, what is it about grimdark that you kind of like so much to
I
write
think
about it?
to me, I like it because of the realistic of the characters. Because like in traditional fantasy, I'd read it was very like this person's inherently good, this person's inherently bad, and it would always bother me because I was always like, people aren't good or bad. It's not black and white. There's always people are different shades of gray, and I love that moral ambiguity in grimdark. I think that's what really gets it to me.
So I'm actually the same. I just had a conversation the other night about grimdark, and I would I always cite morally gray characters as a reason, but then I always follow that up with, but I don't call them morally gray characters. I call them realistic characters
Yeah.
because characters that have good and bad to them. I mean, that's just most humans.
Hmm.
It's not realistic for there to be like everyone that's good will never do a bad thing. I think the thing that drives me the most crazy about what I call regular fantasy, which is like traditional, maybe high fantasy, classic fantasy, some epic fantasy, I guess.
Hmm.
You have something bad happens, right? So the main character gets I don't raped or bullied like to a very strong extreme, or has some sort of catastrophic wound, or maybe their best friend was murdered by someone. Any of these tragic, just awful things happen, and you go through maybe a trilogy, and the whole time they're talking to the people around them, and they're having these internal thoughts about how much this event or these events have absolutely shattered their lives, basically, and how much they want to get revenge, and then they get to the point where they should get the revenge and
Hmm.
they never do because they're good. And it's just like, to me, that never lands right. It never feels
Hmm.
like realistic. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just like I'm very much. How am I going to put this? I very want much like if it's a revenge storyline, I definitely want my main character to be killing the bad guy. I want him to get his revenge. I don't want him to be like, I'm going to spare you because the whole Batman ideology. If you kill a killer, the amount of killers in the world is the same. Like fuck that. Kill that son of a bitch.
Right. I think that's ridiculous. Especially the math doesn't add up either if you kill multiple killers, by the way.
Yeah.
But question: have you read Robin Hobb?
No, I have not.
Okay. Robin Hobb is someone I would consider semi grimdark.
Hmm.
Just in terms of like emotional and some events. She's definitely not a grimdark writer. But she can hit you in the gut like a grimdark book sometimes can. But I just finished reading Live Ships, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone or you. But I do also want to say that as a grimdark preferred reader, I was a little disappointed by the ending of the series because of some of these I don't want to say unresolved, but like things that should have happened that didn't.
Mm.
And that it's just a normal thing in these like big fantasy epics, I feel like, where you get the climax and for some reason something happens and it prevents like whatever resolution you're hoping for. I like disappointing resolutions
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but when every single resolution in your book is cut off because of something else happening, that really bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. It needs like some stuff can be unresolved because that's life. Not everything gets tied up in a nice little bow. Uh, but there has to be the payoff for the reader. There has to be the okay, this is closed type of
Yeah,
thing.
and if you go through, I don't know how many pages, let's say 3,000 pages of just this person being a brutal asshole to you or people you know for 2,800 of those pages, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the last 50 pages you have your encounter with them, and I have you on your knees, let's say, and I got my sword and I have it held up to your neck, and I'm like, I hate you, AJ, I want to kill you, but then I'm like, but I sheathed my sword and you will answer for your crimes. I just don't like that.
No, like I said, I kill that motherfucker. If you're at that point, murder him.
Yes, it makes no sense, and especially I can understand the reasoning behind that sometimes, but when you're talking like this person who just murdered, I don't know, your mom, your dad, your sister, your dog, and then burned down half the town of all of the people you lived among. This is not a spoiler for any book. I'm making this up, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then caused an earth-shattering issue and almost became the evil Dark Lord. But now you're going to put them in your court system and try them? What? I can't process that. Cut the dude's head off. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't
There's
know.
there's a good scene in I don't know if you've seen Daredevil on Netflix or I guess it's on Disney Plus now because
I have not seen that show all the way through myself. I've been in the room with some of it on. I got to be honest, just the Marvel property, superhero stuff in general, is not really my thing. So
yeah.
if you want to spoil something, feel free.
There's season 2 I really like. I like the first 2 seasons of that show because first season it's all build up. Season 2 they introduced the Punisher, which is one of my favorite superheroes because he is literally just a realistic grim dark son of a bitch. And him and Daredevil have this conversation, and Daredevil basically tells him, "Oh, you just go around killing people." And then John Bernthal, who plays Frank Castle, says, "And what the fuck do? You just beat them up, put them in jail, and they get back out and do the same thing that they fucking do all over again. When I hit them, they stay down." And I'm like,
Right.
yes, that's what you're supposed to do as a hero in my mind. You hit them and they don't get the fuck back up. Like you're not going to put someone through the court system. And that's my whole problem with the Batman complex too. I'm like, he just lock him up so Joker can get out and escape in like 3 months and then start doing it
Yeah.
all over again.
Yeah. I have a lot of problems with superhero properties in general because of that line of thinking.
Yeah.
Uh, there's just a lot of things that happen in almost every single superhero property that I don't understand. One of them is the like capture, not kill, and then repeat that a million times when they keep, escaping and doing bad shit.
That's why I really enjoyed anti-heroes like the Punisher's one. I'm trying to think of other ones. The Boys, like the TV show The Boys, I really enjoy because the heroes aren't in the capture and kill, bring them to justice. It's like let's just
Right.
murder.
Yep.
Yeah,
I also like that show.
it's just the whole catch and release mentality I really dislike.
I also
Espe-
dislike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially because like the storyline is always the same. Uh it's these super powerful people and they get locked up in these prisons designed by mere mortals. And it's like no one sees the problem with this philosophy. You're locking up, oh, this guy can move objects with his mind or whatever. Like, why can't he move the tumbler of his jail cell and lock and then
Right,
walk out?
yeah.
It's just like no one is seeing the fucking flaw in this system. And
Yeah, I don't know, man. Another thing I can't stand about superhero properties is the civilians always getting mad at superheroes for ruining cities when they just save the world. It like doesn't compute, right? Like in real life, if we had a Superman or whoever, and they were fighting an alien invader who was trying to demolish Earth, and through that fight, Superman destroyed all of New York City. Is anyone actually going to really care that we had to lose a city because of the battle to save the world? I don't know, but I kind of feel like no, right? Like I would be super thankful, right?
yeah,
Even if my home was in New York City, if I lose my home, but I'm still alive and Earth is still okay, and you beat whatever this, other thing is, whether it's a superhero or an alien or just a Hitler-esque villain, I wouldn't care because you just saved so much.
yeah. It's always like that. It brings me back to that meme where it's like you finally just finish paying off your car and you see the Hulk grab it and throw it at the alien. It's like, son of a bitch.
Again, that's really funny, but you would think someone would pay for the car.
Yeah,
right?
it's just
government or the organization of superheroes or whatever. So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me, but just start a GoFundMe. Go fund it.
yeah.
So John says you love the Shadow. He's binary good and evil, but he takes the Punisher's path. If you engage in crime, he makes sure you never get the chance to do it again. I've never heard of the Shadow.
No, neither. I'm on his Wikipedia page right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Looks cool. I'll have to check it out. Because I am a big comic book person. It's weird because like I always hated having to do that when I got into comic books. Is like, okay, I'm gonna read a superhero movie or comic book, or I'm gonna go see a superhero movie. Just get into the concept of just like turn the writer brain off. Just enjoy what's gonna happen on the screen.
Right.
Stop thinking about the consequences and the logic behind their actions because they're all bound by certain things.
Right. Yeah, I'm really bad at that too. That's why I don't watch like a lot of shit because I like this doesn't make sense. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough once you start writing and you have that brain, and then you start noticing writing in other shows. You're like, oh, I could have done this better. Maybe it's a bit of an ego complex, but
yeah, and I don't know. Especially recently, it seems like Hollywood, like writing in general, has really dipped. What's John say here about the Shadow? The Shadow was the most popular fictional character of his time. Comics, pulp novels, movies, radio plays. Batman is a derivative of the Shadow, often directly ripped off in many places. Interesting.
Oh, 1930. Yeah.
That explains why I haven't heard about the Shadow, I guess, if it's older than Batman and the inspiration for, or the potential inspiration for, I guess. I don't really know what the facts are there, but that's interesting.
2 attempts. I'm curious to see if they've actually tried to. It hasn't been tried to adapt since 1958. They tried to adapt it for television.
Wow. Wonder.
But we'll just keep churning out Batman movies.
Right.
How
many Batman reboots do we need to do?
Yeah, have like 4 different fucking universes and the same.
I believe Zorro was an inspiration for Batman as well. Okay. We just hit the topic. Let's go back to Harry Potter because this fits right in with this. So HBO announces we're doing. I might have this wrong, but I believe it's a 7-season show that's supposed to run over 10 years of time. So what I interpret that to mean is that we're going to be splitting up some of these seasons into halves, kind of like The Walking Dead did, and then airing, part 1 this year, part 2 that year. And I'm just assuming it's books 6 and 7 because they're the biggest or the bigger ones anyway. Maybe 5 because that's actually a really big one as well. So if you're talking about reboots and rehashes, why are we doing the show?
Money.
I get that. Okay, so I understand that we are milking the franchise. I don't argue that. I understand why we're doing this. I understand why it's a Harry Potter property. Why do we have to do the exact same story? If you want to do a 7-season show, presumably each season is a year in the school, can we not do it in a different era with different characters so that we get a different story and then still milk the franchise? Why do we have to do the exact same story that we've read and already seen? It's madness.
Because my opinion on this is because they tried it with Fantastical Beasts. They tried to expand the world. Didn't do nearly as good as the original trilogy,
Shit.
the original series. So they're just like, all right, fans don't want the fucking lore. They don't want to expand this world. They just want Ron, Hermione, and Harry. So we'll give them Ron, Hermione, and Harry all over again.
It's stupid.
I agree. I'd rather people expand the worlds. Like
Me too.
Kind of like what they're doing with George R.R. Martin.
Yes, and you know what? I think the expansion there is working really well. I thought House of the Dragon was really good.
And they're making the Hedge Knight.
Duncan Egg. Yeah, I'm very excited for that too. But so here's the problem. There's two different angles here, and most of them go the one way, which is let's expand the stories, and then they write it like garbage, like Fantastic Beasts. I don't know why the first movie did so well because I couldn't even get through the first movie. I thought it was very boring, and so I never went forward. And I guess they just get worse. But why? And Star Wars is another example of this. We're getting really bad quality stuff because people just don't know how to write. And if they just could do a good Harry Potter show that was not the same thing, I think they'd actually see more money and more success because it'd be new, it'd be fresh. I don't know if you know about Hogwarts Legacy.
Yes, I played it. Beat it.
I also played it. I also beat it.
Loved it.
I also loved it. Original story.
Yes.
The story was not super original in terms of plot, right? It was pretty, I would say overall it was kind of a cliche type of story, but it was so good, especially with the exploration involved, that it didn't even have to be amazing. It was just new and fresh and interesting, and there was a lot of mystery and things to figure out, and it was great. Why not just set the show 25 years before or something? Anything. I don't care. Just something different.
Yeah, I think Right Shift made a comment there in the chat.
Voldemort
as a student, or Harry Potter's kids attending school, which is that's the next element of the book series, is Harry's son. I think
Cursed Child was the play that followed his kid or kids. I think I hated that play, by the way. It was terribly written, but yeah, that could be an option. Although if they wanted to follow Voldemort as a student, I think they wouldn't follow Voldemort. I think they would follow James Potter, which could be a very interesting show still.
Yeah, mind you, I hadn't seen Harry Potter up until 2020. I was not a Harry Potter kid. Oh yeah, I wasn't a Harry Potter kid. I was dating a girl, and she's like, well, we had COVID together. She's like, we gotta watch Harry Potter. You've never seen Harry Potter? I'm like, yeah, I've never seen. She's like, well, you made me watch all the John Wicks, so we're watching all the Harry Potters. So all right, let's watch Harry Potter, I guess. So we watched them all, and I was just like, okay, I don't have the emotional. I think it's like you with The Witcher. I don't have that emotional attachment to these characters because I saw them as an adult. They weren't there in my formative years.
Yeah, I would say. Have you read the books?
No, I read the first one in school. So I read the first one in school, but because it was assigned to me. But other than that,
right? Okay,
no idea.
So personally, I think the books are amazing, even as an adult. First two are kind of not great, but they really start to get good in number 3. So maybe you should try them sometime. Maybe not. I don't care what you read, but they're good. I think. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Follow James and Willie, Sirius, etc. Yeah, they could just follow that group. I mean, personally, if it was up to me, we would just go anywhere else. I would rather just not have the familiar cast personally. Just
Yeah.
do completely original. Maybe some of the ghosts could be the same or something. That'd be fun. But
One thing I was thinking about in Hogwarts Legacy is right around the time, like that time period was supposedly, from what I've been told, was when Dumbledore was in school. So it would have been nice if we saw him in Gryffindor if he was one of the companions.
So I think what I heard
But
was that so we played 1 year, which is fifth year. I believe because I did a lot of reading on this. I believe if the timeline is correct, Dumbledore would be coming to the school when your playable character in the game was in their 7th year.
okay.
I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. So, if they make 2 more sequels or something, then presumably we would see him, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, I just that game was wild to me. It was just so cool that they made this whole original. Now I have an opinion that they really kind of squandered the relationship part of the game. We should have had a lot more conversations, a lot more relationship building stuff. I felt like that part of that game was kind of lacking. But overall, what a spectacular example of expanding a world.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I do. Even like the gameplay was good. Like it wasn't super complex or super simplistic. It felt balanced and it was challenging, which I was like, when I first announced, I was like, how the hell are they going to make wizarding? Like, how are they going to do wizard combat? But it was, yeah. So I think they did a really good job with that game. I hope they keep on. But the problem with that franchise in particular is the flack that Rowling has.
Yeah.
And so I was honestly surprised when they said they're remaking Harry Potter. I was like, holy shit! Like, you're kidding, right? Because so many people said they're gonna boycott the games and they hate the movies due to whitewashing and like.
The boycott did not affect the game.
No, but I was surprised HBO took that risk. I was like, because from that,
I think it was purely from the success of the game.
I think so too. I think they have to see that as like, look at this money.
They're seeing just money bags being emptied on top of their heads, and they're like, we have to keep going with this. Backlash be damned. And the backlash, I have like different opinions on it, but my main opinion is like, I understand why someone would want to boycott or not engage with the franchise. I get that. What I really have oh my god, the ways that people went about it, attacking fans of the properties. I just don't like that. I don't like attacking people for liking something because we do not control what the creators do. And I personally am of the opinion that we shouldn't have to research like everything that we engage with.
There's the conversation of separating the art from the artist. It's right. Like, I think there's a guy I listen to quite a bit as a musician, and he's an author as well, David Gunn. He himself is a controversial figure, but he has this conversation, I think, on a podcast or one of his self monologues, and he's like, almost every, like, Elvis was, I think, beat his wife. So if you're against domestic violence, you can't listen to Elvis or anything that's a derivative of Elvis. So it's basically all rock music. Da Vinci was allegedly homosexual. So if you don't agree with that, you can't enjoy Da Vinci or anything that spawned from Da Vinci. So it's like, just because you disagree with an artist's viewpoints or behaviors doesn't mean that their art is invalidated. You can still enjoy something and be like, they're a terrible person, by my opinion, but their art is, I can still enjoy it. It's the same reason with like the Michael Jackson conversation, his alleged crimes. You can still enjoy Thriller, But if you believe the allegations, you can still say, but I think he's still a horrible, or he was a horrible person.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I would even go deeper than this, because when you're thinking about a product,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be a book, it could be a show, it could be a toy, it could be anything that gives you entertainment. Because apparently, when it comes to entertainment, some people can't separate art from artist. But when you think about just the product in general, there are so many people that touch this product. You are undoubtedly always going to be consuming something created by a terrible person. And so, for me, it's just like I don't care anymore if the person is a terrible person, because I don't want to ruin my own enjoyment, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to research. I want to go to the movies and see this movie, but is anyone problematic attached to it? I don't want to have to go on and Google. I don't care. I just want to see the movie if I'm interested. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, I definitely am of that mindset too, because I love Tarantino movies, but all the Tarantino movies so far have been bankrolled by Harvey Weinstein, and I'm like, yeah,
Right.
he's a horrible fucking human being, but I fucking love Tarantino movies, so I'm
You get
still
into
gonna
the
go.
Harvey Weinstein conversation, and that's hard because he is just touches everything.
Yeah, he was the his production
Literally.
company was the guy, and like he
Right.
produced so much movies, and it's just like if you have any enjoyment of movies, like you basically, I don't know, probably have like a 25% chance that he had a hand in it.
Yeah, he was so big that he touched, a lot of what it was made in Hollywood. And so it's just, so now what? Now I can't watch any Weinstein movie at all. And we're kind of making light of this, but like this, the truth is, there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to this. It's basically, if
Yeah,
some people say that this person is the problem, you're not allowed to engage with it. But other problematic people, it seems to be like, don't worry about those people.
yeah. Do you ever watch like the Ricky Gervais Golden Globes speeches?
I have not. I know him though, and some of his humor, and I know that he's very. Let's just say I agree with a lot of what he says, I guess.
Yeah, like one of Ricky Gervais, I think, I can't remember what year it was, but the one year he goes on stage and he basically says, like, when you take your acceptance speech, thank your God, thank your producer, thank your director, and get the fuck off. Don't start using for climate change because you all flew in here in private jets. Don't talk about like getting kids out of the workforce because you all have iPhones and they're all made in China. Like, just say thank you God, thank your director, thank whoever your writers,
Right.
and get the fuck off stage. And I'm like, yeah, and like I think that world is so full of hypocrisy. And people just, it infuriates me personally because I hate when people pick and choose.
Yeah,
Like if you're gonna pick something, fucking stick to your guns and don't deviate. Don't be like, well, this is okay sometimes, but other times this is totally reprehensible.
I actually got into an argument on Twitter with a few people about
Oh boy,
separating art from artist. Yes, I lost some followers over it, but my argument was like, listen, I don't care what the artist does, because why should I? Like, I'm going to just enjoy what I consume because it's entertainment. And they said, well, then that makes you a horrible person. And I said, but you're typing this out on your iPhone.
yeah,
Like,
and you're using Twitter, run by Elon Musk.
And
like,
and the argument was, well, I need to use this stuff. Like, I need an iPhone, and you can buy, a non-iPhone. You could not use Twitter. You could, but they use it and they want to, right? So it's the same reason that I consume what I want. I want to, like, trying to pick and choose who is harmful and who isn't when you're talking about corporations or rich people in general is just kind of laughable because they're all terrible people.
yeah, I don't think there's a single billionaire who got there by being nice. They've all had to do some. Everyone says Bill Gates is the top nice guy, or the nicest rich person, or a billionaire or whatever. And you just look at some of the stuff that he's bankrolled. I'm just like, oh man, like come on.
And here's the reality of the situation: if you're a businessman, you're going to always go the cheapest route to get your products, because that's common sense, right? We're always going to try and bring our costs down because all of us are in the business of making money. So if you have the opportunity to outsource products and then import them for a much lower cost, you're going to do it, and you're not going to really care how it happens. And so almost every business is participating in things like, you know, child labor or, just really bad conditions for the workers. You know,
Mhm.
you outsource your stuff to Asia and Africa, and these people are not getting paid like pennies for their work, and they're living in terrible conditions, and we don't care, right? And
Yeah.
so when that's happening, and it's not happening with one or two companies, it's happening with like every major corporation. I just think it's kind of ridiculous when we then say, oh, well, this person has like views that I don't agree with, so I'm not going to engage with their product. It's like, really? A random post on Twitter is more important to you than like starving and dying people in Africa who are mining the components needed for like computer chips or whatever it is. That might actually be in Asia. I don't remember
Yeah.
where it comes from, but
There's a guy I went to university with, and God bless him. I love him to death. He is the most pig-headed motherfucker I've ever met in my life. He's literally just, and like people, like he learned about, what was it? I want to say like what are those markets called, like in China and Japan, where like they have the animals there and they just like kill them.
oh man, I don't remember.
What the hell are they called? Anyways, he learned about them and was completely appalled by them. So he researched a shit ton of companies, and people were like, we'll take donations, we're trying to shut them down. And he just said, fuck it, I'll do it myself, and went to China and just started like, and yeah, and like he just like had, like, I don't think he was successful at all in it, but like he just,
Sure.
that's wet market. Thank you, John. And like he was
Yep.
just like super, like that was his goal. I think he went to China for like 6 months to try and like stop wet markets.
That's ridiculous because
Yeah,
like that's not going to work.
no, it's not going to work, and I think he overestimates his ability to get shit done. But like, good for you, man. Like, don't just like, he saw a problem and he stuck with his guns. He's like, I'm not gonna, pay, because like his train of thought was like, I'm not paying you to, because where's that money going? It's going to like your corporation's pockets. It's going to your employees, the people on call support. You probably don't even care about wet markets, was his train of thought. So he just booked
Right.
himself a fucking flight, and that was his alternative. But
That's funny.
yeah.
I don't know. There's so many things in the world that happen that are really gross and disgusting in general,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to, and instead of ignoring actual like issues, caring about some random celebrities like political or whatever opinions is, to me, wild that has mattered more than
Oh, that was
world
like
issues.
in the States. What year was it? I think it was back in 2017. I think that's still not fixed. The Flint, Michigan water crisis,
Yeah.
where they had fucking lead in their water, and no one really fucking gave a shit.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just,
I think they still have problems with that, and then like no one talks about it anymore.
yeah,
John says, unfortunately, wet markets are ingrained into their society, especially in the lower income communities. That's almost like trying to get us country guys to stop driving pickup trucks.
yeah. I feel that, but I mean, my friend, or guy I know, not really friend, little idealistic, but all the power to him. He wants to try and stop it. Fucking go nuts.
You know what? I always say follow what you believe,
Yeah.
but I just don't like it when people push their beliefs onto other people.
Oh, what was it? I was at might be a little crude, but I was at a buddy's house, and we had a conversation about religion with his family, and we're talking about religion or whatever, and his grandma speaks up, and his grandma's like I think she's like 80 something at the time, and she's super Catholic, and she said, you know what, religion's like having a penis. It's okay to have them, but you can't shove it down everyone's throat. And I was just like, I fucking lost, and that stuck with me for years. I think that happened when I was like 16, and it's stuck with me, that expression. And it's like
That's awesome.
an opinion is like a penis. It's okay to have one, just don't shove it down people's throats.
That's funny. I like that. Unfortunately, a lot of people still try to do that
Yeah.
with both things.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that actually is fun. I don't know. What I believe is reading indie fantasy and supporting indie fantasy authors.
Well, thank you.
We love to hear it.
Yeah, we love to hear it.
You know, anytime someone wants to support indie fantasy, I am right there. You know, and John is working on writing his book too, so he
Mhm.
will eventually be one of us as well.
One of us. One of us.
Right. And you know, that's cool. I like the community. It's a great community, the indie writing community. It's very nice. Sometimes a little clicky, I think, in some areas, but for the most part, uh, it's pretty great. A lot of nice people willing to give random people's books a chance, which is great.
Yeah, that's something. Everyone's very approachable too, which have been shocked by. Because I originally come from the music scene, and the music scene
Oh,
is very much like, oh, who the fuck are you? Like, they're very stuck up. And then when I came to the book scene, and I started approaching other authors and people who I don't consider my peers, but I guess are my peers. They're very much, yeah, like I'll come talk to you, or yeah, I'll give your book a shot, or yeah, I'll read your book. And it's just like, holy crap, like it's just
right,
it's
yeah.
an
That's
it's refreshing. It's kind of restored my faith in humanity a little bit.
yeah, it's really cool. It's wild when you see them talk about it in the wild.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh,
And people always say like the authors are introverted and like hunch over their computer and just don't do anything. And they're like, that's been the complete opposite. Authors are the most most approachable and sociable people I've met.
yeah, yep,
And
it's pretty good. All right, so what do we got here? Last several books I've read is indie fantasy. Met a few authors at a Comic Con and got their stuff. Feels good to support. That's cool. I've never been to a con before of any sort. I would love to. I know that it would cost a lot of money, and it's probably not worth it for me yet. I don't know. Small World, Josh Scott Edwards, who was in here earlier, is in a band. Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, I bounced around the music scene for quite a bit, and it's musicians grind my gears now that I'm out of it. It's just like I love them to death. I appreciate everything they do, but they are the most disorganized fucking people I've ever. Because I ran a recording business for a bit where I would record bands, and trying to get a fucking date and time and everyone prepared was, you might as well have like tried to dig a hole through Mount Everest. Like, it was a Herculean effort.
Huh.
And it's just it's so. And then with book people, it's just been so refreshing. Like, hey, can you meet this YouTube time at like 8:30 p.m. Eastern? Sure. And it's just like the communication's there where everyone's punctual. It's like, holy shit, this is refreshing.
Yeah, yeah, it's annoying. I mean, the only problem with the digital stuff like this is technology sometimes gets in the way. You know, right
Yeah.
before we came on, you had a hiccup. I wasn't late. We got started on time, but I wasn't as early as I normally probably would be because of updates on the computer, and so there are hiccups, but we roll with them. But I agree, for the most part, everyone is very welcoming and nice, and like you said, punctual. I've done a lot of interviews. I didn't have a problem with any of them. I think one of them got canceled and delayed, but that was because the person that was doing it had something. I don't even remember who it was. It was a while ago now, and I've done too many of these, I guess, now. But I don't know. Some personal thing happened in their life, and it got delayed, and that happens. But
Yeah.
outside of emergency situations like that, I haven't really had any problems with anyone in the community. It's pretty great, I just love that we're all struggling together.
Yeah. Well, it's like that meme I made and I tagged you in when we were talking about when you're like trying to get into the book, big spread. Whereas like John Palladino's like drowning, and there's like my book in the skeleton in the pool, and there's someone else like hanging
I
out.
forgot about that. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, make it. And the thing that you got to remember as an indie author, it's hard because I do it myself. So I'm going to preach something that I don't actually practice, which is very common in the world. You can't compare yourself to other people because you will drive yourself crazy. And I say that as someone who has driven himself crazy. I look at when the Trials of Ashmount was published, which is June 1st, 2022. Sorry, I get my years kind of messed up. So anybody that kind of started around me then, I just look and compare with them. Like, where am I at? Where are they at? Am I doing okay? Are they am I, oh my God, I've fallen behind 100 ratings. Like, holy crap, they've blown up and I'm, I haven't, I wouldn't say I've blown up, but so that whole comparison thing can really just destroy your mentality. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm super bad for that, but I mean, I do it in every aspect of my life. It's not just books.
Mm-hmm.
I do it in everything, and it's very hard for me, but it's I'm working on it. I recognize it as a personal flaw, and I'm just
Hey, I've learned a lot by comparing myself to other people. Like, oh, they don't do this. I should probably stop doing this.
Yeah.
And so I've adapted. So I think it's in a way it's actually kind of useful and nice to do. But
it's good.
People. Oh, sorry.
It's good if you're if you're watching someone and you're taking the behavior for lessons. But if you're just comparing, like, oh, like John has like 1,000 Amazon fucking reviews and I have 2. Like, why is mine suck? Why is like blah blah blah? And like you just go on and on and on. That's not helpful. But if you look like, hey, he's more active on Twitter than I am. He's going on podcasts every weekend. He's constantly promoting his book. He's actually writing his book because I haven't sat down and wrote for like 2 weeks. Like, it's like there's things you can take from it and that you can learn from people's behaviors, but just not compare yourself to accolades, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's true. You do have to understand the behavioral differences as well. So I've talked to a few authors who have messaged me, or aspiring authors who have messaged me, and I kind of get these questions like, I'm going to paraphrase here. This is not exact, so I don't want people to think that people are actually asking me this. Long story short, either I don't want to suck when I first publish, or I feel like I'm sucking right now. How do I get more eyes on my book without constantly just, spreading it around, or like cold DMing people, or paying for like reviews? How do I get it out there? And advertising is not working for me, or whatever. I always tell people the same thing. If you are an unknown person, in my experience, now this is just for me. I don't know if this works for other people. Don't advertise. It's a waste of money. You just piss it away. I tried advertising on Amazon and Facebook. I got a lot of clicks, maybe because of my covers. I don't know. But even then, I got a ton of clicks, absolutely no sales. I just did not sell. And then people are like, but why do you have, their words, not mine, why do you have so many ratings already? Because on Goodreads I have 118, and on Amazon I have 90, which I would say is kind of middle of the road. I don't think it's like amazing. There's other people who have been published for a slightly longer time than I have, and they just have blown up with ratings. So I would say that I know what I'm doing. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But my strategy, instead of wasting money on like advertising and just spamming my book everywhere, is I try and make good connections with actual reviewers, booktubers. See, John just posted exactly what I'm going to say. The booktube channels, reviewers, and engaging on social media work far better than advertising. Exactly. I'm active on Twitter, but most importantly, I sent a lot of review copies out to like reviewers, physical and digital. And if you can do that, that pays off far more than like, I don't know. I've seen some accounts that like all they do is post about their book with links. Hey, I'm a struggling indie author, and then 5 hashtags. Support indie authors, buy my book, whatever, Amazon link, or doing that on someone else's post who's not even looking for your books. That's not good.
I feel like people want to help people they have a connection with.
Exactly.
People want to support people that they care about, and I mean that's what I'm doing as a casual reader. I'm the people whose books I have interacted with, who people I like, they're nice people. I buy their books and I support them because I consider them friends and I consider them colleagues who I care about. But like some Joe Blow who's just like, hey, buy my book. I'm like, sorry, like I don't know who the fuck you are.
Right, and I hate to be that guy that says this, but I feel like 80% of the time, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, the person that's just, here's my link, go check out my book, does not have the most intriguing or professional cover. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like a double turn off because it's like, okay, you're being annoying. And also you did not put like any effort into your book.
Yeah. I'm always like, when I first approach people for Oathbreaker, oh, that's cool, John. When I first published Oathbreaker, every reviewer I approached is like, hey, I'm sorry if this is unprofessional. That's how I started every message because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was just like, it's courteous. Like, I don't know, do you cold DM people to review your book? Like, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. Right. This is unprofessional. I'm just trying to get my book out there. And everyone was super understanding and personable.
Yeah, I've done cold DMing before, but I think it's the way you do it, right? If you actually have a conversation in the cold DM, like, hey, I'm John. I know you're a reviewer. I just wrote this book. I think it's up your alley because I know what you normally review. If you're interested in having a review copy, I would be glad to send you one. If not, it's no big deal. Basically along that line.
Yeah.
They're a lot more receptive than just like, hey, do you want to check my book out? Link.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are expecting the reviewers to buy it, which is even more like, embarrassing.
It's just, and I got a funny story. Like, I don't know if you know Patrick Leo, I think his name is.
I do know Patrick.
Yeah, I think I blew my chance with him because
shit.
Yeah, I was copying it. Like, I had a whole reviewer like, hey, I'm sorry if it's unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. And I would change people's names and I wasn't fucking paying attention. And I copy and paste it and I put someone else's name into Patrick's DMs. I'm like, and I look back, it's like, all right, well, that ship's probably sailed. He probably thinks I'm a piece of shit who's not paying attention.
But did he ever message you back?
No, he never did. But whatever. It's my own damn fault for fucking up proofreading.
Yeah, that sucks, man. I sent my books to my first book to Patrick Leo, and he hasn't read or reviewed it, but he did feature it on a book haul, and
nice,
man. That I sent one to Mike's book reviews as well, and both times I don't know if it was luck or just because they have such big audiences or what.
Turn on my light.
Oh, sure. But I sold like 20.
Oh, there we go.
So I sold like 20 books on each of those book hauls, like on the days that they featured it. It was crazy. And I don't know if it was because I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really seen a book haul and bought a book from it, but I am also not probably the target audience for book hauls. I mean, I've watched quite a few of them, but I don't know. Man.
Yeah, there's what's her name? Booktuber. I think her name's Chelsea. I sent a review copy to her.
Yep. She's pretty good.
Yeah, and same thing as
She's a nice girl.
and super nice person, and she just she featured my book in a few of her videos, like, oh, this is what I'm reading, blah blah blah, blah. And people were like, oh, I can't wait to get that book, blah blah. I love that cover. I'm like, holy shit, really?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
that's
just
great.
again, if someone read that, I would never say I'm gonna go buy a book. But if I was on someone's YouTube channel, like, this is what I'm reading, I'd be like, okay, good for you. I'm gonna keep reading what I like.
Right.
But that's just
Yeah,
because.
actually, yeah, I sent her a copy of my book as well. Actually, I don't think I sent her a review copy. I think she won one of my giveaways, um, which probably sucks for me because now she probably doesn't feel like obligated to read or review it. I don't know. I know that people feel a lot more pressure with review copies. So,
But
uh,
that's brings up that whole debate from like what 2 weeks ago, where people were like, "You're expected to. If I give you an arc, I expect a review." Blah
oh my
blah.
god, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was like, man, like, I was gonna say something, and then I saw like every author that I follow was saying the same thing. Like, okay, well, they don't need my
So
input if they all have the same
yeah,
fucking idea.
it was so funny because I was talking to, I won't name her publicly because I don't know if she wants me to, but I was talking to a reviewer slash blogger behind the scenes, just casual conversation, not
Mhm.
about my book or anything, just because I don't know, we talk sometimes kind of like friendly. And she showed me that tweet because I hadn't seen it. I
Mhm.
was like, oh my God. And I looked at it and it had like one quote retweet of someone like saying this is terrible, and then I quote retweeted it and gave my opinion, uh, or maybe I didn't. I can't remember. I think I did quote retweet that though. But anyway, then I went to sleep because I'm notoriously up like at weird times. Like I usually go to sleep in the morning at like 7 a.m. or something. So I went to sleep after like putting out my opinion. I woke up and the feed was just it was everywhere. It was insane. I was like, oh crap! Now I feel like I'm part of like really like dunking on one person, which I don't always. I'm not a big fan of that
Mhm.
all the way, but I think that I feel less bad about it because they kept defending it and was kind of an ass about it. But if they had apologized and felt bad, then I would have really felt bad about it. I really don't like pylons a lot of the time, but oh well. That was a quite a day.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's just, yeah, when I saw that and I just saw everyone like just ragging on this guy, I was like, man, they don't need me. And it's been the same thing over, and it's the same opinion over and over and over again. I'm just like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
and plus my imposter complex or imposter syndrome. No one gives a fuck what I have to say. They're looking at the big time self published authors.
It's
So
fair, yeah. People like Ryan and Rob Hayes and
Michael Fletcher and
Fletcher.
yeah,
Yep,
with
Durgash.
me and my dinky 19 reviews on Goodreads.
We need to get you more reviews, man.
I don't even get bothered by it. I'm just like, it's whatever. I'm just happy someone read my book. Like, like
Yeah.
I
So
like I don't
I have
have
a
a
question.
yeah. Go ahead.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No
but I
worries.
just are you looking? So you have a job, obviously, right?
Yes.
Outside of writing,
Mm-hmm.
is your goal to make writing potentially a career?
It'd be nice. I wouldn't say no if that door ever came knocking, but the way I'm at and how I don't want to toot my own horn, but how good my job is, because I've kind of fallen into a really cushy job.
Ah, okay.
I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Ah,
If my book ever surpasses or my writing career ever surpasses like what I'm making at this cushy job, I think I'd be fucking ecstatic. But
okay.
I think I have a better chance of buying a lotto ticket and getting the jackpot than that happening.
Okay. So my personal goal is to make writing my career, but man, the amount of money that you make from this is
It's slim, yeah, but
not good.
it's all the power to you guys. And like again, like if it happens for me, yes, but I'm not putting all my eggs in I'm going to be an author basket. It's
Right.
just because I'm like, I got a good job. I enjoy it. It pays incredibly well now that we got bought by a giant corporation. So
Nice.
yeah, there's perks to being owned by rich people. They have a
Hey,
lot of
listen,
money to dump on you.
I dunk on the idea of a lot of rich things, but man, if they're feeding my coffers, I'm not complaining, right?
Yeah.
So John says, as a supporter of indie authors, I always buy the author's books, even if they give me a free copy. I highly believe in authors making back something for all the hard work they put in.
Uh,
And you know what? That is amazing and a very noble goal. And I think we all appreciate when someone buys it. I think a lot of, I don't know if you've had experience with review copies too much, if
mhm.
you've had a bunch of review copies sent out before a book came out or not. But
Yeah.
in my experience, a good portion of those people end up actually buying like a physical copy.
Yeah, and I've never had someone tell me that they bought a copy after I'd given them an arc, but I've had people come back and say, I'm buying your next one because I've given an arc. I've had people
I've
say,
had that happen too.
yeah, I've never said someone I'm rebuying it. I've had people say I've mentioned like I've had to say, oh, I bought it for my kid for Christmas, or let me know when your next book
Oh, that's
comes out.
cool.
I'm gonna buy it right away. Like I've had people say that to me, but I've never had people say I'm buying another copy of your book.
So I guess specifically that would be like digital people buying a physical copy. I think
Yeah,
is what I've seen happen. I I think what you said about people buying the next one. I've actually had some reviewers turn down my offer of a review copy. They've said, "Listen,
Hmm.
I don't think I'll get to it in time. Uh, I I would rather just buy the book because I want to support you." And I think that's amazing. That
Yeah, I've
you
had
know,
that too. Like Steve talks books.
I
If
was just thinking about him. He
yeah,
just said that to me.
yeah, Steve. I love Steve so much. He's a great guy. I think he has like 6 copies of Oathbreaker in his house, like an obscene amount.
Oh,
Because like he bought it for him, he bought it for his wife, he bought it for his kids. It's just like, and like Steve's like, yeah, I got like so many copies of your book around my house right now. I'm like, oh crap! Like I hope it's good because this is before he even read it. Like he just
oh
bought
wow.
he bought so many copies because like my wife's gonna join the read along. I bought it for my kids because he likes that kind of stuff. He's interested. I'm just like, oh shit! Like you haven't even
That's
read it yet.
crazy.
Yeah. So
But hey, that's great, right? Like anytime someone supports, you know, I love it. It's such a good feeling to have, especially a content creator like that, just super hard behind you. It's awesome.
I like when Oathbreaker first got released, I sold like I think I sold like 75 copies in the first 5 days.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, it drastically dropped after that. But
It does.
yeah, but I was just amazed because my first time writing a book, I was like I'm just some guy who was bored living in a basement suite in Toronto, and I wrote a book for shits and giggles, and some people on Reddit said try to get it published. I got it published, and now people are buying it. 75 people, like 20 of those are friends and family.
Right.
Who the fuck are the rest of the people? And it's just it boggles my mind. It was a freezing press bestseller for 2 weeks. It was So I was just like super mind blowing that people cared about that. And so that feeling, that warm fuzzy feeling that people care and they actually
Yeah.
buy your book,
Yeah.
it's indescribable.
It's such a good feeling. Um, but if John, I think John's the only one hanging out with us here at the moment. If you have any last questions or anything, I think we'll get ready to wrap this up because I know AJ was messaging me about his dog whining, and we don't
Oh
want
yeah.
any accidents in the inside. That would
Well,
not be
the,
great.
the thing with my dog is I'm never sure. He either has to go outside or he's bored. So
Oh, it's Jacob. My mistake. Okay.
so it's either like he's just bored and he wants my fucking attention, or he has to go outside. And I'm not sure what it is, but I'm thinking it's been 2-ish hours. I'm assuming he has to go outside.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So apparently we have both Jacob and John are still in here, but it says I only have one viewer, so that was a little confusing. But anyway, both Jacob and John, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Yes,
It
thank
was
you.
fun having the engagement. AJ, it's been great having you on. A wonderful conversation.
Yes, thank you so much, John. I appreciate you having me on, and just especially for just winging it and me not having a plan at all.
I I have no problem winging it. I'm always nervous to wing it because a lot of people I've noticed are terrible at doing it. So you were great, and so I appreciate that. I think we had a
Yeah.
really good conversation.
Yeah, me too. We bounced around quite a bit, but
We did. We went all over the place.
and your book is supposed to be here. Don't know where it is. I ordered it from Broken Binding. I got
Oh, you ordered one from Broken Binding.
yeah, because I wanted the signed book plate version. I think they said they had that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, AJ.
Yeah.
I do plan on picking up. Well, the book I keep hearing about is Season of Kings, so that's what I was planning on picking up at some point. Yours and Michael Roberti's are two that I do plan on picking up soon. Right now, I have so many book costs that I've kind of slowed down on the book buying.
Yeah.
But,
No. Yeah, I totally understand, and just it's a good thing about people who are like, if anyone's looking to buy my books are quick. I do not write chonkers. I personally as a reader, I hate chonkers because I get intimidated by them. Like, how am I going to read 700 fucking pages? And like,
That's funny.
like my books are all like 300, 350 range. So like, you could hammer them out quick.
Quick question before you go about your books. Season of Kings is a whole different book than Oathbringer, right? It's not like a sequel. It's a
no, same universe, different different story. So Season of Kings, I think, takes place a couple generations prior to Oathbreaker's events happening in a totally different kingdom on the same on the same continent. But like the magic system and the laws and the monsters are all the same.
Okay, cool. So hey, look at that. I'll check you out, AJ, and shoot you about a book with the same title as mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Hopefully, everyone that buys the book ends up reading and reviewing it.
That'd be good. If not, I'm just happy that if you even read a book.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's about all. AJ, thanks for joining us once again. Anyone watching this after the fact, there is a link to AJ's Amazon in the description down below. I think it's just the US one. So if you're trying to get to AJ's books from a different market, you'll probably have to search him. Never fear. Just put in AJ Rettger. He comes right up. I tried it. So
it's pretty unique name.
That's right. All right. So thanks and have a good one, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.